Hello everyone and welcome once again. It's about time to ask, how good is Hanna and can you skip her? Yes, but one thing that some people might be wondering to themselves is, where are the news? Shouldn't you do a news video? Well, the Japanese server is going to get their 3rd anniversary unit unveiled in like 10 hours or something, and that's when I'm going to do my video about that. But until then, we need to talk about Hanna because she's got to be on the new Hanna Sarasa Fate Weave in like less than a day or something. So the thing about her is that the first thing you need to say right away is that she's unlimited. So if you do want to skip a character, because maybe you drew on some other characters recently and you might need to save a little bit, at least she's unlimited, so you should already be thinking about that. But moving on to her about as an actual gameplay character, we see that she's a dark type with 2 Excel discs, 2 blast discs. Her stats are that she has really low HP and defense, but she has quite high attack. That's quite alright. So at this point it seems like she's going to either fit into a blast team where she can put out a lot of focused damage and maybe towards the late game go into some Magia, or maybe you just stick her onto a straight up Magia team and use those Excel discs and that high attack to get some really powerful Magias churning out. So those are the 2 strategies that you'd be looking at with this. We can look at her personal, which does chance to bind and defense down on 1 unit and is absolutely god awful. Moving on with her connect, we see that it gives 35% attack up, it gives damage up versus enemies afflicted with status ailments. And if you're a bit worried about what that exactly means, basically it's just a damage up or a damage increase. So if you think to yourself this is just the regular damage up effect, as you can see with this yellow sword icon here that you're used to from a lot of other effects as well, it's basically that, just the exact same as that, with the only thing added to it is that it only is active if the enemy is afflicted with a status ailment. So something like a stun, a bind, a curse, a dazzle, anything like that, any purple icon effect is a status ailment, and that will increase the damage if someone with this buff would be attacking them. So basically it's a 32.5% damage up, but only if the enemy is inflicted with a status ailment. This means that this connect actually gives both attack up and damage up both at once, which is actually pretty absurd. So just damage potential wise, this is actually pretty damn high. Of course, the only downside to that is the enemy needs to be inflicted with a status ailment. If only it also gave a status ailment on it. So it has a chance to charm on attack, which is 100% at 5-star. Of course, if you're fighting against someone who has status ailment resistance, like in any team that has an ultimate Madoka on it on the enemy side, this will be reduced to maybe like 70% or something. So that is also something to keep in mind. 100% does not mean it always works. Of course, status ailment resistance is always a thing. So a lot of people have looked at this and say, wait a second, we have a dark type character, 2 Excel discs, who is absolutely crazy in the head, and they're unlimited. They have a connect that does charm on it. This is just Kanoko. The discs are slightly different, and Kanoko's stats are of course a lot worse because she's not even uncapped to 5-star yet. But people usually use Kanoko mostly to just get that charm on attack off. And that is basically the main reason why Kanoko has some sort of notoriety, at least among newer players that maybe don't have other characters that can stun, bind, charm, or anything like that. You can just throw in a Kanoko if you really want to play the strategy that tries to chain stun enemies, and you can just have that charm on attack going off. Like a lot of people play either something like double Kanoko or Kanoko and Mami together to just keep stunning people. And you can do the same thing with Hanna, yay, as a 4-star character, which means that you're not going to get her at 4 slot as easily as you could Kanoko. So if you just want to be there to do the charming, probably Kanoko actually better, because Kanoko is probably going to have 4 slots, 4 memorial slots, and unless you roll really hard on Hanna, you're probably not going to get her on 4 slot anyway. However, of course, Hanna as the unit itself would be able to do a lot more than just a Kanoko who just stands there, looks crazy, does some mushrooms, and then screws off again. But as I mentioned earlier, maybe because she has 2 Excel discs, oh by the way, actually before I do that, she is actually slightly better if you have both of them at 4 slot, or just in general, if you only really care about charm and don't give a crap about anything else, just the charm. Hanna is slightly better at that because she has 2 blast discs instead of 1 blast disc, meaning you can actually use one of those blast discs to connect. And of course, when you connect with a charm on attack with a blast disc, every single character that gets hit by blast can get charmed, so it's going to be easier to do more wide-reaching charms. Anyway, as I wanted to say, Hanna, of course, since she does have 2 Excel discs, maybe you want to play her in a team that it might still be focused a lot on blasts, but does get toward Excel towards the late game. Or maybe, like I said, you play her on a straight up Magia team with those 2 Excel discs. And I mean, even then, you can make use of this connect to charm enemies. So you can connect someone to this, they then attack with that disc that was connected to charm an enemy and to get both the attack up and the damage up, and then that other character can use Magia. And that Magia will of course get the 35% attack up, and it will get the 32.5% up damage up versus enemy inflicted status ailments if the ailment hit. However, because charm is a level 1 status ailment, sadly, they don't get the increased damage to weak element that you would get if instead this was something like a stun or a bind. So almost the entire package, but even so, very, very powerful to set up for other people's Magias as well. But what about her own Magia? So it damages one enemy, 720%. It has a chance to bind that one target. It does attack down versus the target of about 25% at Magia level 5, as well as a, what is that? I think the scaling is a bit off here, but it says 25%. I think it's supposed to be 2.5%. So 40% at defense down, also against a single target at Magia level 5, and a chance to evade off for yourself, 100%. So this also looks pretty alright. Only downside is, of course, this is all single target focus. If you're playing against a really big boss that has many tiles, of course the debuffs still hit. You will still get the bind, the attack down, defense down, and of course you still get the evade yourself. However, it would do a lot more damage if it was AoE, and that's also some of the reasons why people usually prefer AoE attacks, is because even against singular bosses, usually big bosses take up multiple tiles, so having an AoE does more. And also, if you're playing against of course multiple enemies at once, you're not fighting against a boss but multiple enemies at once, of course having an AoE Magia is way more preferred, so you can actually clear out some stuff. But there are a few nodes where you have like one powerful enemy as well as a bunch of smaller, less powerful enemies that are supposed to like protect the big boss, and you can like snipe the big guy with a Magia like that. But those nodes are really not something you see that often in challenge quests anyway. Usually in challenge quests, when you have multiple enemies, they're all going to be strong. Usually. So that is also something to keep in mind. But so it does look like her Magia does actually kind of alright, but it could do a bit more damage if it was AoE focused. Her Doppel, of course, is right there as well. It does, as you would expect, a lot more damage. The attack down is a bit higher, the defense down is the same, basically. And you also have the chance to evade, as always. So basically, once again, it's a Doppel. For almost every single character that's like this with a Doppel, it's a little bit better as a single disc than Magia. But if you just want the effects from it, you would use the Magia multiple times. However, if you're using a Magia like this, usually you, especially on a character that has this much attack, you probably just want to kill the enemy. So if you want to just kill the enemy, then maybe just load up to Doppel and then smash the Doppel down and try to like one-shot the enemy. That's something you can do. So overall, Hanna doesn't actually look that bad. On one hand, she can support in blast teams by giving both attack up and damage up versus status ailments after the enemy has been charmed with her charm that is also coming from the same attack. You can do the same thing you can do with Kaneko, where you play it together with something like Mami or another Kaneko in order to keep change stunning enemies. There's also something you can do. Something to note about the damage up versus enemies inflicted blah. It only works if the enemy is already inflicted before you start your attack, meaning that the attack that applies charm on the enemy is not going to already get the damage bonus from the effect. Only the second hit after that hit will then get the effect from the damage up. So if you connect someone with this and give someone else a Puella combo, only 2 of their discs would get the increased damage up. But then again, you can also have other sources of status ailments anyway, so you might still get all 3 discs to get that effect. So overall, she actually looks quite nice. Not really overpowered. I mean, on one hand, for Magia teams, yeah, it's single target and her connect. While it is nice to set up for Magia, she does nothing to actually get to Magia. She only has 2 Excel discs, she has no Excel up, no MP gain up, nothing like that, no MP restore. So she just leeches off of other characters' MP from like Excel combos, for example, or being connected to with Excel discs or getting MP restored to get to Magia. And then even when she gets to Magia, single target. So that's kind of a bummer. but still she can make some stuff happen. And like I said, her connect is really good at supporting, at setting up even more damage for Magia. And if you look at blast teams, like I said, she can work in blast teams. She has 2 blast discs. However, she doesn't give exactly blast up, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But other characters that give attack up and blast up, like Nanaka for example, will overall just do more damage with their connect. So her connect is still really, really good for blast. But there are better ones out there on free characters like Nanaka or Tsuruno. I always mention Nanaka, but Tsuruno has basically the same connect as well. So Tsuruno also is pretty good at that. And of course Ashley, if you have Ashley as well. Or Kazumi, who also has an amazing blast connect. But who even has Kazumi? I do, first slot on Japanese server. The charm at least is a really nice bonus on top of that, but also keep in mind that in mirrors, if you have 3 enemies for example and you charm 2 of them, congratulations, the enemy gets a free Puella combo, and if that enemy that gets the free Puella combo is like a blast gorilla, then your team is just dead. Something to watch out for. So yeah, she doesn't have anything where she's like super duper awesome or she's super duper amazing. She's not a star in a blast team, she's not a star in an Excel team, but she works reasonably well in both. However, here comes the big problem. She works reasonably well as an unlimited character when she's dark type, and guess what? There are so many goddamn awesome dark types out there that are way better. Some of them, of course, if not most of them are limited, like of course you have Homura in there, you have Ashley in there for example. If you want to play the Axel strat, you have Nagisa, of course. And if you even look at unlimited characters, Kanae is a blast gorilla, so for blast strategies she's better. Ren is overall maybe somewhat of a better support, I personally argue, especially with Spirit Enhancement, because guess what? Hanna didn't even get Spirit Enhancement yet on the Japanese server, so we don't even know when she's gonna get Spirit Enhancement, but Ren's Spirit Enhancement actually makes her a really good support. So it seems like she's decent, she's at a pretty good level. But there's so many other characters who do some really cool stuff on the same element, both some that are limited and both some that are unlimited, that kind of makes you go, man, if only all these other characters didn't exist, Hanna would actually be really good. But she's always like second choice or third choice or fourth choice. There's like no situation where she's like first choice, because even when you say, oh, I want to charm people, yeah, but Kanako is unlimited and she can also charm people. So, would you want to spend rolls just to get the charm off if you can also do the same thing with Kanako? I don't know. So overall, she's not bad. She's actually good. Like I said, there's just so many other characters that do some stuff way better than she does. It's just kind of not that great, to be honest. However, moving on to the actual Memoria that are in the gacha, because of course the gacha has Memoria, the one who waits, or she who waits, or whatever. MB gain down. Unless you're playing against an enemy team where you know they're going to try to get to Magia within multiple turns on like some really hard challenge quests, then sure. Otherwise, no, not at all. And even if you are playing against super hard challenge quests with EX, probably just make sure everyone has a meteor rain and some damage modifier. So I don't even know if you can fit this in somewhere. Maybe you can, hard to say. Not bad, but extremely situational, probably too situational. Remnants of Light, or as it calls an Afterglow, way better name. Anti-Mesmerize, Anti-Does 100%, yeah, it calls this. You need this MLB to actually get the 100%, however, there's a 2-star Memoria, and it's unlimited. It's unlimited. This one's also unlimited, by the way, but who cares about this one? This is unlimited, meaning that you're not gonna draw this on the gacha. And even if you do, like, what does it matter, really? This is one of those Memoria that you just randomly get from drawing the support point gacha, the friend point gacha, whatever it's called. I still, after 3 years, I don't know if it's actually called support point or friend point. It's called support points. You just draw this randomly on the support point gacha, and at some point you're gonna have an MLB, and you're just gonna chuck it into your archive until that one quest arrives where the enemy spams dazzling. Then you can be like, oh, I have this Memoria in my archive that gives anti-dazzling. You can take it out and use that on that quest, and it's going to be great. But apart from that, it's just going to sit in your archive for like years, not doing anything. And then we also have Back to Back, which is illustrated by Yugen, who does all the other Azalea art. Not Hanna though, because Hanna is, well, the only thing I have to tell you before you even look up who it is, she has no spine. And what other characters do we know that have no spines? Yeah, of course, it's the artist that drew Oriko, Kirika, and Yuma. And not having a spine is basically a telltale sign that you've been drawn by Murakure. I like her actually. A lot of people really hate Mura. I'm just gonna say the stuff that Mura draws, some of it is really darn stylish and unique looking and looks pretty cool. Just don't actually look at it for too long, because once you notice that the anatomy is completely wrong, everything goes out the window. So just try to ignore the complete lack of anatomy, and it actually looks pretty good in some cases. Anyway, so this is one drawn by Yugen, the Azalea artist, and it gives at maximum break 100% anti-evade and a 35% chance to burn the enemy on attack for 2 turns. It's pretty good. It doesn't. It's sadly it's one of those Memoria that doesn't give an immediate damage up. It doesn't give attack up or damage up, something like that, or blast up, anything like that. It doesn't give increased XLMP gain up. It really does something very specific, but only that very specific thing. Unlike something like Space Hug Memoria, which gives both anti-evade but only 85%, and on top of that, a pretty good attack up. And I would say if you have that Memoria, if you have like the Space Hug Memoria, use that instead if you want to go for anti-evade. Not getting 100% usually doesn't matter too much, but having the attack up on it is way better. In here, it's really just for some very specific cases. For example, I mentioned this before, once Hikaru the horse gets into some EX challenge quest, she's going to be using 100% evade up on herself every single turn. On a quest like that, this Memoria is pretty good. However, should you roll for this? Of course not. You should never roll for Memoria, and also especially not in this case, because it's an unlimited Memoria. So this will be in the unlimited Memoria pool. You will maybe randomly get this in the support point gacha. No reason to spend actual worth of Magia stones on it. So instead, if you roll for Hanna anyway, then it's going to be cool to keep this thing in mind. Otherwise, you're just going to randomly pick this up in support point gacha, and you'll be like, oh yes, the one that gives anti-evade and burn. But if I have Space Hug, I'm just going to use Space Hug instead. So yeah, that's basically all there was to say about this. Of course, once again, if you do actually care about Hanna as a character, then of course do pick it up. To pick her up, I think she actually has a pretty cool backstory. I don't actually remember. I don't know. I'm going to have to wait for the backstory to actually come out so I can actually read it, because I don't know what it is. Like, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in maybe like 15 or something hours when the news for the next 30 anniversary comes out. Yeah, that was that. So hope you guys enjoyed this. See you guys next time, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.